Welcome to the Web Control Overview. We're going to talk about some basic functionality of the Web Control software package, as well as how to navigate through the system. And now, right away, we should notice that we are using Microsoft Internet Explorer to access Web Control. What this means is that you do not need a copy of Web Control installed on every single machine in the building in order to access. All you need is one copy of Web Control installed on a server somewhere, and any machine that has Internet Explorer on it can access the system simply by browsing to the server. This is very handy because you can access the system from almost anywhere in the building as long as it's on the network. Now I'm going to go ahead and log in by entering my username and my password. And right away what we'll see is a graphic on the right hand side in this pane that we call the action pane, and then on the left hand side we have a tree. We're on the geographic tree and we use that to navigate with. We can also navigate by clicking on hyperlinks just like we could any other web page. Now I'm noticing something. I have this scroll bar here. My graphic doesn't look like it fits perfectly into this action pane. And you will see that on rare occasions. Most of the time the engineers are able to generate a graphic that fits perfectly, but in some cases with a very large graphic, they won't be able to do that. Now I have a couple of options. The first thing I can do is right click using the mouse and then pick Scale to Fit off of the context menu. What we've got is we've got the graphic kind of compressed, okay, so that we can see more of the graphic. And again, this is useful for the rare instances when we have an unusually large graphic. However, I really don't want to do that. I'm going to right click and scale back to the 100% or natural size of the graphic. And what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to click F11 on my keyboard. This will maximize the viewable area in the browser itself, and now you can see both scroll bars have disappeared. This graphic now fits perfectly in the action pane, and that's what I like. Now let's navigate a little bit. I want to go ahead and look at Georgia. I happen to have a building in Atlanta, so I just click that hyperlink. Now I could continue navigating with the graphic, or as a demonstration, I could go ahead and use the geographic tree. I've now navigated to the Atlanta building, and I can see something right away. I have what we call thermographic floor plans of my building. We'll talk about what that means in a moment. We'll see that I have a trend that's measuring my electrical demand. I have a thumbnail of my building, outside air, and some various other things. Now this is very customizable by the engineer, and it's one of the really fantastic things about Web Control, is you can get a lot of data on this page, and it can be completely customized based on what the user wants. Let's navigate to the first floor, and notice when I do so, that also on the geographic tree, the first floor is highlighted. So I can always look on this tree and find out where I am in the building. Now again, we have outside air, but we also have a close-up of the thermographic floor plan. And the thermographic floor plan is basically a visual representation of the building with colors on it. And these colors change based on set point and the actual condition in the zone. So right away I can look at the office area and say, wow, based on this legend it's a little warm in there. But the sales office is ideal. Marketing's a little cool, and there's something going on in the conference room that I need to address. It's in an alarm state. It's either very hot or very cold. So right away, you get this bird's eye view, visual representation of what's going on in your building at a glance. Thermographic colors are a very powerful tool. Now what's important to realize is when we say ideal, we don't necessarily mean ideal for every single person in the world. That just means that the actual temperature in the zone is within the predefined set points that we set up. Everybody feels temperature differently. For some people, they can measure a change in temperature of 3 degrees. For other people, it's 5 degrees. And that's going to change based on the clothing they're wearing, the physical activity, the amount of people in the room, etc. So these are relative colors. In other words, all they mean is, am I within set point or am I somehow deviating? As I said, every person feels temperature changes differently, and of course, there's no true ideal. Now we're going to talk about some different things in Web Control. Let's go ahead and navigate to the office area. And you notice once again the geographic tree has changed to reflect the new location. And now I'm looking at the actual mechanical equipment for the office area. Notice the icon has changed on the geographic tree. This icon means I'm actually at the equipment level. In other words, there's a piece of mechanical equipment here that I should be looking at. Now I've got status values, of course, but I've also got the ability to do things like change set point from this graphic, which I'm going to go ahead and do. And I can see my actual zone temperature. Now this is completely customizable. If I, for instance, navigate to a different piece of equipment, you'll see that although I do have a different piece, the graphic is essentially the same because it's just returning status values. I can still change my set points, but I have a different kind of room sensor in there. Now these graphics are excellent. They're very interactive. I can actually change my set point adjust as if I were standing in the room from this graphic. Again, this graphic is completely customizable by the engineer. Now at the equipment level, we can see that we have other buttons we can press. Properties pages, schedule pages, alarms, trends, logic, and reports. We're going to talk about those in greater detail a little later in our exercise. We have many videos and you should take a look at them based on topic.